Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's October 10th. Yes, it's 10/10. It's 2023. We are going to talk some postseason baseball and we're going to talk opening night NHL because why not? Basketball season's a couple weeks away. We're going to talk hockey a couple times on the podcast this month. And to talk some NHL, we go to a familiar face, Timothy Buell, TastefulTides. Tim, what's happening, my friend?
I am very excited for this. I love all sports. I play DFS for pretty much all sports, but I love NHL the most by far for both DFS and for watching purposes. So this is it's an exciting time for me. I am fired up for some NHL finally.
Well, we got Stanley Cup champs kicking it off at home here, raising the banner. And my Lightning playing against our company's Nashville Predators. So fun little NHL slate. We got baseball still. The NLDS has been fire watching these games here on Monday night. And last night, I mean, again, like we saw some really good baseball games last night. And I mean, I feel like this year's World Series is going to be fire because I mean, I feel like whoever gets there is going to deserve to be there. One, and like the talent of the playoffs this year just feels incredible. Like there's some underrated teams I feel like that we talked about during baseball season throughout the year, and just like watching the Diamondbacks kind of do what they've done to the Dodgers so far tonight and what they did in game one is really cool. And then so many times this year we picked on like the Twins because it's like, hey, when are the Twins going to show up with all this talent? And I mean, they beat the Astros last night. So I feel like the Rangers have been an underrated team all year. Baltimore is a great team, but Texas, we're about to talk about them. They're up 2-0. The Astros and Twins 1-1 series. And I mean, just really good baseball. Playoff baseball has been fantastic. Taking advantage of playoff baseball more on like pick'em sites and in the betting world than I am in like the DFS, traditional fantasy streets, because I mean, pitchers get pulled so much faster and we can really take advantage of that kind of stuff in the pick'em and in the betting street. So Tim, just some quick thoughts so far on the playoffs here.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by the Rangers Orioles series. I think that's the biggest one for me. The Rangers were really struggling in the last part of the season, and the Orioles just seemed so top to bottom solid depth, decent enough pitching. So that's the one that surprised me the most. Obviously, if the Diamondbacks, win on Monday night and go up 2-0, that would be shocking also. But I've been really just like thrilled to see the atmosphere of the crowds. Like it's been very, very intense. An incredible comeback by Atlanta against the
Oh,
Phillies.
what a game.
That
What
was
a game.
an amazing baseball game. I grew up playing baseball. That was my best sport, as an athlete, and I loved watching that game. That was so much fun. So yeah, definitely, it's been a lot of fun. I played one of the 4 game slates, but I have not been in the DFS streets very much. I've been preparing for hockey.
Yeah,
So
there you
here
go.
we are. Here we are.
We're gonna break down these 2 baseball games. We're gonna do it all traditional morning grind style. We're gonna go game by game. We're gonna talk about the 2 hockey game or the 2 baseball games, and then we'll shift gears and talk about the 3 hockey games. I was talking to Tim, pre-lock, and I mean, contest size looks really good for hockey. So hopefully we can get you started on your research for the day for NHL. I know I don't play NHL DFS. I'm gonna strictly either build a team or some pick and plays off of what Tim talks about and some of the tools that we have here at RotoGrinders. But just before, I guess after we talk baseball, we'll give like a quick rundown. But hockey, is very similar to DFS baseball as far as stacking, line stacking, that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that when we get there. So if you enjoy MLB DFS, you probably will enjoy NHL DFS. So
That's absolutely right, Stevie. Like I wish more people played NHL DFS because it's an amazing DFS game to play. If you like to stack baseball, you would love to stack hockey. And there's a lot of like low owned stacks that you can get night in, night out. So it's a lot of fun to play.
all right, let's talk baseball. Breaking it down, 2 games here on Tuesday night. If the Rangers win, we won't have a 4-game. We'll have a 3-game slate on Wednesday. But if the Rangers lose, we'll have a nice little 4-game baseball slate on Wednesday. We get started here. Houston at Minnesota, 4:07 Eastern start on this game. I hate that they do this. I wish that they would start these games later in the day. But hey, listen, they're not in Tampa, so they'll have fans. So 8 total. Twins a 140 favorite. We got Sonny Gray going up against Christian Javier in this one, and love the total, love the upside of some of these pitchers. But let's start with Christian Javier first. He has been kind of hit or miss, I feel like, definitely down the stretch. What is your thoughts here on Javier going up against Minnesota?
I think he's a pretty decent play just because of Minnesota's strikeout rate. He's very, very cheap. So $7,300. It kind of comes down to like, do you want to pitch him or Kramer, who we'll talk about? Like, and right now I think I'd rather pitch Javier. So I think Javier might be my second favorite pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, listen, down the stretch, he has been someone I have avoided a lot.
Yeah.
Just really been struggling. But if we look at his last few starts, like getting amped up for playoff baseball, he's actually been pitching okay. And he finished the season with Baltimore, Seattle, and Arizona. And he had 3 solid outings in those matchups. The Seattle game, he struggled a little bit. But I agree with you as far as like just looking for upside here for Minnesota is the strikeouts. They are going to get their lefties back in the lineup here. This is going to be a lineup where he's going to face a lot of lefties. And, Christian Javier, that's been his biggest downside is just, left-handed hitters. So we're going to definitely talk about the Minnesota lefty bats. But if you're playing on DraftKings and you got to play 2 pitchers, I said it yesterday on the podcast. I've said it a lot over the last week and a half. It feels like you can pitch any of these 4 guys. All 4 of these guys are very talented pitchers. Any of these 4 guys could go out and have a good game. And honestly, you're just kind of hoping for like 5-6 strikeouts, 1 or 2 earned runs, because it's playoff baseball. These guys can get yanked in the 4th inning if they're not pitching well, and you just don't want to be on that guy. So I don't mind Christian Javier. If I had to rank him out of the 4, he honestly would probably be 3rd for me.
Third for you? I thought you were going to say 4th, and I was like, oh man.
I think Kramer's 4th.
Yeah, me too.
I think Kramer's 4th, and I think the clear top 2 options are Eovaldi and Sonny Gray. But let's talk about Sonny Gray on the other side of this game. Favorited against Houston. Sonny Gray is a very talented pitcher. He finished the season really, really strong. He saw an increase in strikeouts, was pitching really well. What are your thoughts here on Sonny Gray going up against this tough Houston lineup?
Listen, I have absolutely no issues with people rostering Sonny Gray. I'm kind of surprised he's this much of a favorite. Like, aren't you? Like, I'm showing him as like a minus 140 favorite. I think that's a little high, to be honest with you. I'd rather just go down to Eovaldi. But I guess he's fine. I don't think he's got the same kind of ceiling that Eovaldi has.
Yeah, I think Eovaldi has the highest ceiling as well, just overall on this slate. But I feel like Sonny Gray, when he is on, he is so good. And I mean, that's really all they're kind of hoping for here. I don't think his ceiling is like 100 pitches. I think they want him to go out and throw like 80 to 85 really good pitches, 5 innings, get to the bullpen, play matchups in the bullpen. So like ceiling wise, he might not have the same type of ceiling as these guys. But I really do overall think that Sonny Gray is playable. But again, I think all 4 of these guys are playable. I mean, you're just on a 2-game slate, you're just sitting here going, all right, we're, picking and knitting at the smallest things just to find something that you don't like.
Yeah, like if I'm making 20 teams, like I'm gonna have every single one of these guys in my pool. But if Sonny Gray is gonna be the heaviest owned of all these guys, I'm gonna want to be underweight. I guess that's my point. I've got no issue with him being in your pool, but if he's gonna be the most popular, I'm gonna take an underweight stance on Gray, an overweight stance on Eovaldi, and an overweight stance on Javier. But it's really, I mean, and I think I might, I kind of like Houston to win the game at those odds. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, playoff baseball, I feel like every game should be a pick 'em. But
right, it just seems high to me.
All right, let's talk about bats here. I mean, the Houston side, Sonny Gray is extremely talented. He got hit a lot harder by right-handed pitching or hitters down the stretch, but I mean, throughout his career, he's been pretty neutral splits wise. I mean, Yordan Alvarez always at the top of the board as far as like upside picks. He has been on fire to start this series. 3 home runs in the first 2 games. I mean, he's obviously one of the top hitters on the entire slate. What are your thoughts on the Astros in general?
Yeah, so if I'm going to be underweight, if I think people should be underweight on Gray and he's going to be very, very popular, I want to be overweight on Houston. So like you said, Yordan makes a ton of sense. Brantley at 3,700, like I know he's not, the sexiest play, but I think he makes a lot of sense in a playoff game at 3,700. So I think he's a strong play. I love Altuve in the playoffs, especially in the playoffs. I know he's 6K. He's kind of hard to fit, but I really like Houston.
Do you remember like the first stretch of the season we were making fun of Jose Abreu so much because he just wasn't getting anything done? Finished the season with 18 home runs, just a completely different hitter in the last few months of the season than he was at the beginning of the year. So I don't mind, looking a little bit here at Jose Abreu. Outside of that, like I like the Brantley call. I want guys on base. I mean, that's the biggest thing when it comes to playoff baseball or fantasy baseball. Pena, if he draws the start, he's another guy that can get on base. He has that upside to steal bases as well. I think he finished the season like 12 or 13 stolen bases. So I mean, he's a guy that has some upside as well. Minnesota side, Minnesota might be my favorite stack on the slate. I know you talked about how you like Houston. I look at Christian Javier and his struggles with like left-handed power, and like this team can get these left-handed power bats in the lineup, and I worry about that and like a really quick outing for Christian Javier. I mean, looking at the Minnesota bats, they're really cheap still. Kepler, Julian, Wallner, Kirilloff, like they're all just so cheap. So like if you want to play the Minnesota stack, I don't know how much I would really stack. I'd probably build like a 3-3-2 or a 4-4 type of build on a 2-game slate, but you can play whatever pitchers or any other stack that you want to because of how cheap this spot is for Minnesota.
The only problem I have with this, Stevie, is going to be the ownership. I think that's
they're going to be popular. Yeah,
I think it's going to be like the highest owned stack. Like you're absolutely right. Minnesota with these salaries, this is a great spot for them. But if I'm going to be playing this 2-game slate, I'm not going to be playing the chalkiest stack on the board. And so this would probably be like a huge stand to take is to fade them. But you're absolutely right. In a vacuum, I've got no issue with this. Max Kepler at 4K, absolutely. Royce Lewis, yeah. I mean, he's on fire. Kirilloff's in a great spot. But on the other side, some of these guys also have a little bit of pinch hit risk too. So That's just like another reason that I think I would just stay away from them if you want to get different and fade the chalk.
You gotta love pinch hits. Those are my
Yeah,
favorite.
I'd be paying attention to that kind of stuff when you're doing your pick'em stuff,
Oh yeah,
because there's going to be a lot of pinch hitting for Minnesota.
yeah, and like there's a good chance that both of these pitchers, even if they're pitching well, only get like 2 times through the lineup. I mean, now like
Right.
I mean, series tied 1-1. This is huge. 5-game series, so like this is the
That's
time you want to win.
that's why I don't mind taking a shot on that, like on a $7,300 guy versus the 9K guy, because I mean, Sonny Gray, if he's not being amazing, he's going to pitch, 4 or 5 innings. I'd rather save that 1,700. Hope Javier can get me maybe 5 innings also, a couple runs, and you're really not that far behind.
All right, other game here. We got Baltimore at Texas facing the Rangers. 9 total in this one. The Rangers are a 140 favorite. Eovaldi against Kramer. Let's talk Kramer first. I think Kramer is in a tough spot, but I also think that for a 4-game slate, he's going to have the lowest amount of ownership. Him and Javier, I feel like, are going to have. I think he's just going to be lower than Javier because of the Minnesota strikeouts. So I think Kramer, from a tournament perspective, is somewhat interesting here, even though, like, I mean, I think Texas is going to smash because that's what they do. If he can pitch really well, like, I feel like, you're just kind of hoping that you have a ceiling game from Kramer and the Texas bats don't get going right off the bat here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just looking at this Texas lineup, I think
Because
they're
there's
really
no weakness.
right. Like, I really think this is a tough spot for Kramer. If for some reason Javier ends up being the like very, very popular, maybe I would, reverse my stance and go with Kramer. But if they're, I don't know. I really like Texas. I think they're gonna sweep this series. I love Eovaldi too. So I'd be underweight on Kramer.
No, I completely I think on a 20 entry max, he's probably my. So it would really depend. If Javier has like double ownership on Kramer, I would probably be more overweight on Kramer than Javier. It'd be an ownership like game theory type of play
Right.
because I mean, again, it's a 2-game baseball slate. Game theory has to matter here. Eovaldi, I expect Eovaldi to have the most ownership on the slate. He pitched fantastic against Tampa. What are your thoughts here on Eovaldi?
My favorite pitcher on the slate. Obviously, Orioles aren't really supposed to be that good of a matchup, but only 8,800. I think he's got the highest ceiling on the slate. I think that this Baltimore team, I think, is showing its youth, right? And they're very, very talented. They're going to be talented for quite a long time. But I think this game on the road, down 0-2, I think this is the end for them. So I think Eovaldi crushes them.
Yeah, I think this is a really tough spot for Baltimore, and I feel like I'm with you when it comes to being overweight on Eovaldi in this spot. Looking at type of props that we're going to get, they let him go 98 pitches in his first start of the playoffs. He pitched fantastic. I think that was, a ceiling game. Like we're in postseason baseball. You're not. I mean, you would be absolutely thrilled to get 30 fantasy points out of any pitcher at this point in fantasy baseball. But you're super happy when your starting pitcher goes like 15 plus. That's what we're looking for now is guys that can score 20 plus fantasy points. And I feel like Eovaldi projects as like the potentially the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. So, this is a spot I'm definitely with you. I will say though, like going to the other side here and talking about the Baltimore bats, if Eovaldi is going to be chalk, this is where you just throw everything out and just play a game theory Baltimore stack. This team has been fantastic all year. Their backs are against the wall. I mean, I could see a scenario that Eovaldi doesn't even make it out of the third inning here as well. So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's playoff baseball at its finest. But I mean, definitely interested in the Baltimore bats here. More of just like game theory, contrarian type of build.
For me, it would simply just be contrarian game theory. But yeah, they are super talented. Definitely can get some Cedric Mullins at 3,600, Ryan O'Hearn 3,200. So there is some really cheap pieces. I think you could even play a couple on your Eovaldi teams and not full stack them. Just to get different. But yeah, it's a team. It's the team I think I'm, have the least amount of faith in. But I already want to fade Minnesota, so really it's Houston and Texas for me. So I have to sprinkle in some kind of value, for all those expensive bats that I like. So there are some cheap pieces of Baltimore that are solid plays.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, if you like Baltimore, Santander and Mountcastle, Mullins, they're all prices that are jumping off the page to you. I feel like if you're stacking Baltimore, you almost have to get Henderson in there. And then I feel like if I'm stacking Baltimore, I'm getting Rutschman in there as well. I hate paying up a catcher, but I feel like he's one of the best hitters in this lineup, and he should continue to hit leadoff for this team. So I feel like he's a priority. And I mean, if you're getting Rutschman and Henderson in there, and then you throw in Santander, you're looking for another value batter too. And they should have plenty of them. I mean, you worry a little bit about the pinch hit risk, but I still think there's upside here in this Baltimore team. Like Eovaldi, fantastic against Tampa. Eovaldi down the stretch, awful, absolutely awful. So there's upside. Texas bats. I mean, I feel like this is everybody's top stack on today's slate. Dean Kramer is the lesser of the evils when we're looking at the pitchers, and when we're looking at just like names, quotation marks for everybody that's not watching on YouTube. Why are you not watching on YouTube? Make sure you subscribe to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. What up? Kramer is in a tough spot, Tim. This lineup it's stacked from top to bottom. Like Evan Carter got called up, and all he's doing is hitting. Corey Seager's having a phenomenal year. Mitch Garcia, like Heim, Lowe, Josh Jung is back. Like, there's no weak hitter in this lineup. Like, everybody in this lineup against right-handed pitching on the season, over a 165 ISO against right-handed pitching, and everybody in this lineup against right-handed pitching, over a 300 WOBA. Like, there's no weak spot.
I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but can you imagine how good this team would be if they had DeGrom and Scherzer right now? I mean,
yeah,
it would be incredible. But
they're up 2-0 in the ALCS, and we're talking about how good they could potentially be. Like, that's how good this team is.
Right. Yeah. So, Corey Seager, it's kind of a toss up between Corey Seager and Yordan Alvarez for me in terms of top play. I think I have to lean Seager. Way better matchup. Probably more ownership too, though. But I think Seager's the top bat on the entire slate. Man, Evan Carter. Like, I remember when he was min price. Like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. So Nathaniel Lowe, 4,200. I think is an amazing play. So I think this whole Texas lineup is in play for me.
Yeah, Evan Carter has been someone that I've been talking about a ton on the podcast down the stretch, and I just hope people have been listening because this guy is knocking the cover off the baseball right now. Like, there's just times in your career where the baseball looks like a watermelon, and I mean, this guy he's seeing beach balls out there.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. I think that kind of wraps up baseball. Let's talk some hockey. Fun stuff. Hockey. I will say though, really quick, just going back and looking at some of the prize picks, pick'em stuff. I feel like there's a little bit of value. I'm waiting to see, like, we'll get some hitter projections out in the morning, and I'll be looking at that kind of stuff. So much more interested in like hitter fantasy scores. Like I think like right now they have Seager at 7.5 hitter fantasy score. I like more than that. And as well as Jordan Alvarez has been hitting the ball. He's at 7 fantasy score. So
What do they have for Seager?
7.5 fantasy score.
Oh wow, I love that.
Yeah, so I'm doing a little 2-pick pick'em. I'll definitely be looking at more in the morning, but I'm going to go Jordan Alvarez more than 7 hitter fantasy score and Corey Seager more than 7.5 hitter fantasy score for tomorrow's slate. All right, hockey time. I know there's a couple people already talking about hockey in the chat. Hockey season is here. 3 games. I know nothing about hockey. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know anything about hockey. That's why I brought in Tim to talk some hockey today. I did know, and I've learned over the years that you definitely stack in hockey like you stack in baseball. So we get started here, 5:30 Eastern lock with the Predators and the Lightning, my Tampa Bay Lightning. 6.5 total, and Lightning are a 166 favorite. Let's start here with the Nashville side. Always starting with the visitor side. Tim, talk to me here about the Predators.
Yeah, sure. So, probably, I mean, they're kind of a tough team to break down. They have Roman Josi, who is one of, if not the best offensive defenseman in the National Hockey League. Always a strong DFS play, has a tremendous shot floor. He's projected for probably a little over 3.5 shots on goal, which is a really, really strong projection. We have him ranked number 4 overall in our projections in raw points, and he's 7,800. So he's a guy that you can always play. Is this the best matchup for the Predators? No, it's not. They're on the road facing a slower paced team. It's not a great spot, but he's always viable for tournaments. It's not, like I said, it's not the best spot. But on the other side, Tampa Bay has lost the best goalie in the NHL. Andre Vasilevsky is going to be missing 2 months. So Tampa Bay has Jonas Johansson starting, and that is a humongous downgrade for them, like a big, big downgrade. So you could get a little bit of a push from the Predators, guys like Josie, like I mentioned, and then also there's some cheap pieces also for Nashville. Guys like Tommy Novak are very, very cheap at under 5K. He's on the first power play with Josie. Luke Evangelista, he's extremely cheap also. He skates with Tommy Novak at even strength. There's Ryan O'Reilly and Philip Forsberg, who are on the first line and first power play together. So they correlate at even strength and on the power play. And that's what you love to see in NHL DFS. You must correlate your players. So yeah, I mean, those are some names that you can play from Nashville. I will also say this. You do not ever have to play the most expensive goalie in NHL DFS. You want volume on DK. You want shot volume. So UC Saros for the Nashville Predators at $7,300. He may be my favorite goalie in tournaments. So I just want to throw that out there. I have no interest in Johansson, but I have a lot of interest in Saros. I think he's a top 5 goalie in the NHL. So he's the type of guy that can carry a game on his shoulders. So I absolutely love him for tournaments.
All right. Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I know anything. I do know that when you're stacking in NHL, I am much more likely to stack a power play unit than I am just a full line. And it's a bonus when you have a guy or 2 guys or 3 guys that skate together on the same line and on the power play unit. So if you are looking at like Josie here, O'Reilly, Forsberg, those guys, interesting. So
Yeah, so there are no on Nashville. There is no full line stat that fully correlates. All their lines have some separation regarding even strength and the power play. So there's no full line stacks on Nashville that you can get for power play.
Perfect. I mean, I feel like that's makes the builds interesting and contrarian. But let's go talk about my Tampa Bay Lightning here. Uh hey, listen, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos. Stamkos is going to shoot a lot, right, Tim? Like he has to be a guy that projects pretty high for shots on goal or shots just in general. What are your thoughts here on the Lightning?
Yeah, so we have Stamkos rated number 5 overall in raw points, just under Josie. So yeah, um, he's a fantastic play. He actually skates on the second line with Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli. So he doesn't give you that full correlation with Kucherov on point unless they're on the power play. Now on the power play, you've got Mikhail Sergachev, you got Kucherov, you got Point, Stamkos, and Nicholas Paul. So that's your power play for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is gonna be popular. Kucherov is the number 1 rated player on the slate tomorrow, but I think I'm going to fade them because I love Soros so much. Now, that could blow up in my face, be a terrible play, but I think they're pretty pricey, and I think Soros is such a talented goalie, and I think Nashville's going to win this game. So I don't really like Tampa Bay, and they're going to be very, very highly owned. So they're a fade for me.
Yeah, well, Tim just got muted on the podcast. To come on the podcast and talk about my favorite team. I'm just kidding. We do have
why can't you be a Panther fan? Like,
my name is Stevietpfl, Tampa, Florida.
All right. All right.
I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. We do have a question in chat. Richie wants to know: do you like to correlate the defense?
Yeah, so correlating a defenseman against your stack is completely fine. Not something that I like super prioritize, but I think it's a strong play. It makes a ton of sense. So yeah.
All right. One goal from this game, Tim. One person. I'll put you right on the spot. Who's a guy? Who's someone that's scoring a goal?
Do you want someone chalky or do you want someone off the board?
I want you to tell me one person in this game you feel like really confident that's going to score.
All right, I'll go Kucherov. Nikita Kucherov.
He's really good.
he is really good. He's gonna be like the scariest fade that for me. But yeah, he's the top rated skater for this slate.
He's really good. All right, moving on. We got Blackhawks and Penguins kicking off at 8:00. 6.5 total in this game. Penguins, Pittsburgh big favorites here going up against the Blackhawks. Let's start with the Blackhawks. Being a huge underdog on the road is never a crazy thing in hockey, but Tim, talk to me here about Chicago.
Yeah, so Connor Bedard, number 1 overall pick, probably going to be a generational talent, barring injury. He's going to be tough to handicap, I think, because he really doesn't have a lot of talent around him. So that's the tough thing. Hockey is the biggest team sport, in my opinion. You can't individually win games like you can in basketball, for instance. So he's $7,500. He's pretty expensive, but boy, is he talented. So, I mean, he's a tournament play. I'd say more of a large field tournament play. His line mates, Taylor Hall and Ryan Donato, correlate fully with him at even strength and on the power play, and they're very cheap. So that is a very good, affordable stack. They're just in a really bad spot. So, but you should get some production from that line. It's just this team's going to be horrible. That's the bottom line. Chicago's going to really, really stink this season. So I might, in a smaller field contest, I might take a shot on Ryan Donato at 3,100, skating with Bedard and Hall for a value piece. But I don't know if I'm going to play with Bedard or not.
So I have a question for you on the pick'em side of things here. Do you think Bedard comes out firing? Like, he has a 3 shots on goal projection. Do we feel like he's going to come out firing here?
Yeah, so he's
going to want to score his first game, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, yes, obviously, but I mean, let me see. Like, so DraftKings has him for 3.5 shots, minus 166, I think. So
we should take advantage of the the prize picks more than 3. Like,
right. We have him projected for 3.69 shots. That's our projection for him in this game. So
I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't follow hockey very closely outside of playoff hockey. I love playoff hockey. I think it's one of the best playoffs that we have in sports in general. But I know who this guy is. I mean, that's just because, like, if you're in the sports world, you have an idea who this guy is because he's been talked about so much over the last couple of years.
He's a really big deal. He's going to be fantastic, but he just has nobody around him. So we'll just have to see how truly good he is because he's going to get no help.
All right. Pittsburgh's going to put it on. Chicago is everything that I've heard so far. So talk to me here about the Pittsburgh Penguins.
So this is kind of why I'm fading Tampa Bay, is because I want to load up on Pittsburgh. That's kind of like my take for this slate. It's Jake Gensel, Sidney Crosby, fantastic plays, but it's actually the second line that I have a ton of interest in. You got Rickard Rakell, Evgeny Malkin, and Riley Smith. Rakell and Malkin play on the first power play unit together, so you get that correlation. Riley Smith is relatively cheap. So that second line for Pittsburgh, I absolutely love in any format. Erik Karlsson, he's one of the best offensive defensemen. He's now on Pittsburgh. He's going to be on the first power play unit. I absolutely love him. It comes down to him and Yossi for me in terms of, a spend up at D. I'm going to lean Karlsson because I just love Pittsburgh. Peter Mrazek is the goalie for Chicago. He's absolutely atrocious. Pittsburgh should put it on Chicago in this matchup. So I love getting to as much of this team as I can.
Okay. So again, I'm building a pick'em thing here. So I'll actually give this out and get your thoughts on it. Like, I'm strictly listening to you and building a pick'em as we're going.
Yep.
They on Prize Picks, and I'm doing this on Prize Picks so everyone knows. On Prize Picks, they have Peter at 31.5 goalie saves. Do we think Pittsburgh is going to put it on him that much that we need to be looking at his goalie saves, or do you think that they're going to score so much that he might not see the third period?
Oh, so okay, we have him at 31.4 goalie saves.
Yep. See, I'm not touching that. Perfect.
Right.
That means the line is smart. There you go.
Yeah.
That's why.
So I wouldn't touch that.
There you go.
But boy, I think he's gonna let up a lot of goals, though, I think.
So one last question I got for you, because I mean, that's what I get to do today is just ask fun questions. I love this, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
contrarian thinking, like, because that's where my brain goes instantly. I know it's contrarian to pay up for defense in hockey DFS. Is this a spot where we could potentially pay up for both defensemen, Carlson and Yossi here, to get different, and like they're both capable of scoring as defensemen and like making your lineup different for a 3-game slate?
I think you could do that. I think you absolutely could do that. There's cheap enough pieces on some second lines that we haven't even talked about yet. So I think you could do that for sure.
And
Yeah,
it's opening night. There's going to be value. Let's be honest. So,
yeah, absolutely.
all right, finish it out with the champs. The champs are here. Vegas. I need the Raiders to win this game. I need the whole Vegas team just to work right now. 6.5 total. Golden Knights and the Kraken, the two recent expansion teams. Golden Knights, the fastest expansion team to ever win a Stanley Cup. That was really cool to see. Knights, a 170 home favorite. From what I've heard and what I know, Seattle is no joke. I feel like this has the potential to be the best of the 3 football games, or 3 hockey games just in general here.
Yeah, probably. Well, I actually kind of think the best real life game is going to be Tampa Bay Nashville, but this would definitely be number 2. Tough spot for Seattle on the road going into Vegas. They're going to raise the banner in front of their home ice. Seattle's no joke, but for DFS purposes, I think they're very tough to play because they really spread out their scoring. They're not real concentrated in terms of their outputs. So it's guys like Vince Dunn, who is going to run the point on the power play. Matty Beniers, 5,600. But really, like, this team is cheap. But I don't love them for DFS. Like Jared McCann, he's a high volume shooter, but he's 5,900. Not a great spot either. Like, so I don't really love this team for DFS purposes, despite them being good in real life.
So stack wise, is there anything like that you'd be willing to stack here on this team?
I guess the Beniers, McCann, Everly line. Beniers, McCann correlate at even strength and on the power play. So I think that would be decent. But honestly, I don't think. And then Andre Burakovsky, he's 3,900, second line, first power play unit. He's a good value play if you need somebody under 4K. But this team in general, I don't have a lot of confidence in this spot.
All right, the champs. What are we looking at here for the defending Stanley Cup champions?
Yeah. So obviously the usual suspects are Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore, Mark Stone, Jordan Marchessault. They're all spectacular plays. Now, if I had to rank, Nashville, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, I like Vegas would fall to number 4 for me. So I would prioritize, spend ups on Nashville, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh over Vegas. I don't think there's going to be. I like this game to go under the 6.5. So it's definitely just a take on my part, but there is a good value line. Vegas's second line, Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone, and Brett Howden are very, very affordable. It's a very, very affordable line with Stevenson and Stone on the top power play unit. So if you're looking for some value from Vegas, Stevenson and Stone, I think, are fantastic cheap pieces.
There you go. I didn't do this to you last game, but I got to know who scores for Vegas.
I'm going to go Mark Stone.
All right, Mark Stone. I like
and
it.
then I'll give you Ricard Raquel for Pittsburgh in the last game that you didn't do it for me.
All right. Well, let's I'm gonna read you off. So as we've been talking here, I've been building a 5-pick play
All
over
right,
there on Prize Picks. I'm gonna murder some of these names because that's what I do.
that's okay.
Kucherov for Tampa, more than 3.5 shots on goal. Do we get a thumbs up there, Tim? We like that one?
Yeah.
All right, and then we already talked about Bedard. That's a more than 3 shots on goal for me. We have a thumbs up on that one.
Yep.
You just said this guy's name, Jonathan. Was it Marshalt for Vegas?
Marshall. Yeah. It's
All right, we have him at. I'm taking more than 3 shots on goal for him. We like that one.
All right. Keep talking.
Right.
I want to look it up for you.
All right.
We got him for 2.9.
2.9. All right. Okay. I'll take that. It's opening night for the champs. I mean.
All right.
And then Sidney Crosby, more than 3 shots on goal, just because I'm always going to get a little Sidney Crosby when we're talking hockey.
All right.
And then I finished off this one. Okay, this one was someone that you mentioned that you liked, and I was looking at the sports books, and I was like, this seems like a really good number. So we're gonna finish out the 5-pick play here with Ryan O'Reilly from Nashville, more than 2 shots on goal.
We have him for 1.9.
So there you go. His line is like minus 150 for over 1.5. So we're gonna go with the more than 2. So I did 5 shots on goal plays, and I took more than all of them because if I'm sweating something, I'm definitely sweating some overs. So Tim,
let me just tell you one thing. Let me just say this. I don't like the Crosby one.
You don't like the Crosby one.
That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, well, let's replace it. And when he,
I don't want to ruin it for you.
Oh, well, we're gonna replace it now. Like we got who do we want to take instead of Mr. Sidney Crosby?
Do you have what do they have for Yossi?
So he was originally in mine, and I took him out. It's 3 shots on goal for him.
Yeah, we have him for 3.5. I like it a lot better. Yeah,
we'll take that one.
I would do that one.
There you go. So we'll replace Sidney Crosby. I'm gonna make a 6-pick play now because it's. I feel like right when I take him out, like he's a lock for 3+ shots on goal now. So I might as well just go for a full on 25x. There you go. Why not? I mean, it's opening night of hockey. I gotta have something to sweat. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here, Tim?
No. Just make sure to check us out on Discord. We give you all the news, so it's a really good service to use.
It's free. The Discord's free. Yeah, take advantage of that. I mean,
yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, one of the only paid channels anymore is NASCAR. I wonder, we got to talk to someone about that, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like if you guys have any questions about like who's skating with who and whatever else, any news, come to Discord. We'll fill you in.
There you go. Yeah, check out Discord. The projections team, Tim, is one of the driving forces behind our NHL projections team. So make sure you're checking out the premium content here. They're going to have plenty of stuff up for projections and stuff like that. Check out the Discord. Like Tim said, rotogrinders.com/Discord. I got to talk to somebody about, let me know in chat and let me know on Twitter or in the comments. Should we get a morning grind channel going in Discord? Would you guys participate in a morning grind channel? I can make it happen. I know some people. So if you want to see a morning grind channel, just let me know. But again, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Easiest way to get to the Discord NHL channel. Like baseball, I'm in the football one all the time on Saturdays now because I'm up really late on Saturday nights and it's just fun to talk football people. So, so make sure.
Yeah,
Check
we're
them out.
always in there. So, it's a really good place to be.
There you go. All right, we're going to get out of here. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. We're back Wednesday talking baseball. It'll be 3 games or 4 games. We shall see. Have a good one. We'll see you then.